Prior to this, he served as Senior Fellow and Director of the Earth Science and Climate Change Division at TERI. Mr. Sharma has contributed to over 100 national and international projects with his expertise spanning across air quality modeling, emission inventories, and policy development. We welcome you, sir. Up next, we have Dr. Bhargav Krishna, Convener, SFC and Coordinator, Environmental Governance and Policy Vertical, Sustainable Future Collaborative. A round of applause for sir, please. Dr. Krishna is a distinguished public health researcher and policy expert with over 12 years of experience in environmental health and sustainable development. A Harvard-trained doctor of public health, Dr. Krishna has authored more than 40 publications on climate change, air pollution, and health policy. We welcome you, sir. Up next, we have Dr. Pratibha Ganesan, Principal Scientist, Climate Resilience, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. Can we have a round of applause for ma'am, please? Dr. Ganesan is a distinguished researcher and policy practitioner with over 10 years of experience in urban environmental health, science policy, and climate change. She has worked extensively across academia, think tanks, and international collaborations. Dr. Ganesan has also led capacity building initiatives for over 500 municipal officials, advancing climate resilience and effective urban service delivery. We welcome you, ma'am. Next, we have Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Kanchan, Director, International Forum of Environment, Sustainability and Technology. A round of applause for sir, please. With over 2 decades of experience in environmental sustainability, Mr. Kanchan has played a pivotal role in shaping India's environmental regulatory frameworks, including the critically polluted areas concept, continuous emission monitoring systems, emission trading schemes, and industrial emission norms. He has also contributed to the global initiative advising entities like NEOM in Saudi Arabia on real-time environmental monitoring system. We welcome you, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. S.D. Atri, Member Commission of Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and adjoining areas. Can we have a round of applause for sir, please? With over 3 decades of experience, Dr. Atri has led initiatives in management and supervision of meteorological observations and services, establishment of environmental monitoring networks, air quality monitoring, modeling and management, and many more. He has also served on key national committees under the MOEFCC, MOES, and CPCB, and also contributed to the several international programs of WMO, UNFCCC, and IPCC. A recipient of the Prime Minister's commendation for his contribution to the IPCC Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. Atri has over 125 publications and extensive experience guiding environmental research and policy. We welcome you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause to welcome our guest to the dais. Before we begin the session, I request the chair and our panelists to please come forward for a group photograph. Thank you, everyone. With this, I now take the opportunity to request Professor Mukesh Khare to take forward the session. Over to you, sir.
Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, breathe it or beat it. Very impressive quote, which is quite applicable to city like Delhi, especially during winters. Indoor or outdoor doesn't matter, because both the places the air quality is really deteriorating. So we have to think very seriously, breathe it or beat it, otherwise difficult to survive. So I have a pleasure to welcome you all in this panel session. And you know that air pollution is a concern, not only concern, but a challenge to all of us, including technocrats, bureaucrats, and researchers. We are working in this area for almost last 30-40 years. Many of the researchers and technical people in different institutions, but still we are not able to solve it. So we have to beat it somehow. And that's what our distinguished panelists are here, have an experience working in this area for last so many years. So I hope that towards the end of this panel discussions, we have some way or some path, some light in the tunnel that how to proceed and how to tackle this challenge of air pollution to protect our society, to protect our children, to protect our old age persons, and to protect our, especially those sensitive allergic people who are really in great danger these days. Now let us use this platform to reflect how innovation, collaboration, and policy alignment can transform our cities into healthier and more resilient spaces for all. So with that, I would like to open our discussion. Let's start with the first questions I would like to direct to my colleague over here. And I'm really proud to say that Sumit was my research scholar, PhD student. And he was very, very good PhD student, very clever and very intelligent. And he did his PhD in 3 years, I think. 3.5 years, I think, which is quite rare in India. About 4 years it takes, but he was very clever and intelligent guy. So I would like to ask you, Sumit, what policies or cross-sector collaborations do you think are most critical to mainstream air quality considerations into urban infrastructure planning? So can you throw some light on that?
Thank you, Professor Karik. I think first thing which we need to understand is that urban infrastructure plays a very, very important role in defining air quality of a city or of a region. And there are multiple ways to indicate that. Unless we plan our cities better, we are bound to have higher energy consumption and associated emissions. Generally, people, when you plan cities, there are three broad considerations. Where do people live? Where do people go for work? And where do people go for recreation? Now, these three things are something which are going to determine where the buildings will be, where will be your commercial centers, where will be your recreational activities, and the travel requirements around these cities. Based on that, your energy consumption is determined. And once you plan these three things better, you can actually optimize a lot of your energy use within the city and can lead to reduced energy consumption and emissions. The second thing which land use planning can do is the siting of possible polluting sectors like industries. Whether you want those industries, typical types of industries within your cities or not, whether you want to be outside of your city or in a specific zone which is determined by scientific modeling that impacts the city to the minimum possible reasons. Roads, and we know now that road dust free suspension is a major factor, at least in the PM10 concentrations which we observe. The type of roads we build, where we build, do we have ring roads, do we have peripheral roads around your city, that will determine how much or what overall traffic will be flowing through your city or around your city. The transportation infrastructure, the metros, the BRTSs, all those kind of transport planning things need to be integrated within the infrastructure requirement to control air pollution. And finally, it comes to construction sector. And I think this GREA conference is all about buildings and construction sector. And we know construction also contributes significantly to more to PM10 and also decently to PM2.5. And that is where the role to construct the buildings in a way that they don't sort of emit these PM10 dust particles during the construction phase becomes very, very important. And I would say all these sectors and all the relevant departments, whether it is PWD, whether it is NHAI, whether it is the state highway agencies, MCDs, whoever is responsible for not only constructing but managing these infrastructure, they all become very, very important. And the role of a nodal agency, the city level pollution committee or the pollution control board who is responsible for air quality management, they need to be in touch with all these departments to ensure that emissions are kept to the minimal from all these sectors. Thank you.
Right. So your main important point is the cross-sector collaboration. It means all these agencies should work together collaboratively so that the things can be planned efficiently and effective. Interventions can be done with respect to the air quality. And do you have some idea on the policies, that what policies should be, how should we tackle the policies on these important sources of air pollution?
I think it starts with the master planning, as I said. Within the master plan, if we can integrate the component of air quality considerations, planning the residential areas in a way that they are least impacted, planning the location of industries. If we somehow put them on the upstream side of a city, we are bound to get all the pollution towards your city when the wind blows towards that. So all those considerations need to be part of your master planning so that you have effective land use planning. Roads, and unless you have right kinds of roads developed and not the roads which deteriorate very, very quickly and emit a lot of dust, we are bound to get these kind of pollutions. Construction, we have good guidelines, but I think in fact in all the sectors which I have mentioned, there are good guidelines there, but the enforcement becomes more important, and the mechanisms to enforce is something which I think we will deliberate while the discussion goes up, because that is something which we are lacking, and the monitoring mechanisms for enforcement is something which we need to strengthen more effectively.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you so much for such a elaborate explanations and reasons which you have just given. So I'll just smoothly go towards Bhargav Krishna. Bhargav, you heard Sumit that how that monitoring is important and how the collaboration is important in order to tackle or intervene these air pollution problem. I would like to ask you, despite robust action plans, which we have city action plans for all the cities in India, and monitoring framework. We have a quite old monitoring framework, all over the country, city-wise as well as the country-wise. Implementation gaps still persist. What institutional or governance reforms could close the gap between the planning and on-ground action, which Sumit has just told that compliance, implementation, etc. is still question marks. Can you throw some light on that?
Thank you so much, Dr. Khare. Pleasure to be with you all here this afternoon. It's a challenging question to try and capture in a few minutes, but let me give it an attempt. I think the question of meeting any regulatory guideline for any pollutant largely depends on whether we have the regulatory capacity to be able to enforce the standards that have been set across emissions for various sectors. In the question of air quality, we've done our own work a few years ago looking at the regulatory agencies that are tasked with managing this issue. So state pollution control boards in this case, and across the board they have vacancies between 40 and 60% in technical positions. The the capacity needed to manage the load of industries that we're talking about at this point in time hasn't been assessed in over 20-25 years. Our economy is doubled, trebled in size, and these institutions are still largely the same. So where are we expecting effective management when we don't have the capacity within the regulatory institutions to be able to do their jobs? I think the enforcement aspect of this is also dependent on how we are able to effectively manage cross-sectoral coordination. I mean, Swin brought this up. But if you look at how different sectors are approaching this issue, it doesn't really feature it anywhere in any kind of prominent way. Our master plans, for instance, Sumit mentioned they don't take into account air quality. I don't think they take into account most other environmental concerns when they're thinking about master planning. Master plans are largely where would we like to build going forward, and what are needs that we have with respect to housing, transportation, industrial location, etc. Doesn't really take into cognizance whether the city or the urban area has carrying capacity with respect to water management. It doesn't really take into account whether we have the ability to add more air pollution load into this area and what implications that could have in terms of health impacts. None of these are really factored into the question at all. And it doesn't really take into cognizance the most important of all of this, whether energy demand would be able to be fulfilled through sustainable means if we were to add this additional load to this area. So if you look at all of these independent bodies that are tasked with managing cities and urbanization going forward, so you have your Town and Country Planning Authority, you have Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, you have agencies like State Pollution Control Board and the CAQM, you have various other independent agencies that are all tasked with doing this. And if you read all of their action plans, none of them really speak to each other in any meaningful way. And I guess this is a question of how do we effectively manage coordination across government. That's an antecedent to really thinking about how do we manage enforcement going forward, because if different agencies are giving you different directives on what is acceptable and what is not, then industries are naturally not going to be able to effectively comply with any of them well. And this is the sort of fundamental sticking point right now, which we're thinking about, let's say, climate action at a city level. Who's responsible for it? With respect to air quality, we've made municipalities responsible for managing air quality within the city through the National Clean Air Program and through grants from the 15th Finance Commission to cities to manage air quality. But what really lies within the remit of municipalities with respect to air quality is largely just managing construction sites and road dust. Beyond that, there is really not much they are able to do. What can they really do about industries? What can they do about transport? What can they do about many other sources that are lying within city boundaries but aren't within their regulatory remit? The expectations that they would be able to coordinate across other agencies is also not realistic, given that they don't have the convening authority to be able to do so. Who from a transport department is going to listen to a nodal officer from a municipal agency if he tells them we need to take certain X, Y, Z actions on transport emissions? So we are benefiting from the fact that we have an apex agency in Delhi like the CAQM, but this isn't true of most other cities around the country. So if we're really thinking about what we need to do for enforcement of existing policies going forward, we need to take a step back and think about what are the coordination mechanisms that we need to put in place. What are the institutional structures that we need to put in place to be able to effectively implement these policies in the first place?
Right, thank you so much for your explanation on governance and institutional reforms. And some of the points which you have mentioned is quite needed for the city to breathe clean air in future. Despite all these reforms which you have just mentioned, still the people are suffering from health exposure, and so a lot of evidences are also there, and many papers are published and many news items are there, not only from Indian researchers but also international researchers. The next question I will direct to Dr. Pratibha Ganeshan. What evidence do we have, Dr. Pratibha, about the direct and indirect health impacts of chronic exposure to urban air pollution, particularly for vulnerable population?
Thank you, Professor Kare, and good afternoon, everybody. We know that when we speak about the direct impact on health, direct impact of air pollution on health, it's mostly that we are discussing about the morbidities and the mortality that is there. So, World Health Organization and Global Burden of Disease and the Lancet Commission they have all come up with quite good evidence on what are the direct impacts, particularly mortality. They say that around 7 million people die because of a direct impact from air pollution. And when it comes to morbidities, mostly respiratory illnesses, which include COPD or asthma, the planning process towards the health interventions. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Just a very quick point, we are talking about direct and indirect impacts of pollutants on health. And we talked about the cognitive abilities and the direct respiratory illnesses. There are direct impacts on the growth of, adolescents, kids at this stage. Young girls in their, adolescence, they are found to be having lesser height. So the growth itself is impacted due to their exposure to, certain level of air pollutants. So, all these kinds of new evidences are now telling us that it's not only about dying or living, it's about, suffering for the whole life if the whole growth aspect is impacted by pollutants.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit. I think you are very right. Dr. Pratibha, I just want to know or share your experience that how far the epidemiologists or the doctors who are working in this area of health exposure and public health, what's your views on their collaborations with technical persons like working in the area of engineering side of air quality and technical side of air quality? Is there any gap between these two institutions? And if this gap is filled, do you think that we can have more robust database on health exposure and we can have a good policy making on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to collaboration between the health professionals as well as the scientists who are actually the technical people who are working on the air pollution, I think it is a must to have, because unless and until we understand the technical aspects, particularly the aerosol scientists and the health professionals coming together and understanding how is this aerosol and the pollution affecting human health, and the technicalities of that, it is very important. And I don't think that there is a lot of collaboration that is happening even in the health advisory. Most of the conversations are mostly on the air pollution can cause this mortality and morbidity, so this is how you need to be dealing with it. But more than that, from a technical point of view, I think there is a lot of collaboration that needs to be there, and that gap still exists, and it is not complete, is what my observation.
Thank you, Dr. Pratibha. Now I think I have to come to Mr. Kanchan. What role can ESG framework and industry accountability play in curbing emissions from the construction and manufacturing sectors? And we have already heard that these two sectors are really a big culprit for in any city causing air pollution. So can you share some light on the ESG role?
Good afternoon, everyone. So ESG is comparatively new term, and we have been talking about, I would say the simpler word for that, what we used to before, is sustainability. It's applicable to across the sector. We are talking construction sector. So one is the main construction industry, where we are talking about building the infrastructure, residences. Second is a sector allied to it, like steel sector, cement sector, which provides input to that. As far as ESG is concerned, if you see across the sectors, what ESG reports they publish. If you have gone through the report, the regulatory form of it is now BRSR, which is required for top 1,000 industries to publish. In ESG report, which every industry mostly published, big one, if you see, it is the reporting of all their activities that they do. It's called ESG, but it's reporting of all that. if you go through and compare across the sector or across many industries, you will find a clear lack of intent why it is being done, except the top 3, 4, 5. Because the biggest one plays on the global platform where there are requirements that you have to publish this information. For example, the reporting, you report for GRI, you report the template of CPP, TCFD, you all do that. That is the compliance as part of their requirement where they are member of it or they are published, they are doing the business to, and the purchaser had that demand to publish. But the intent as far as air quality is concerned, intent to what initiatives you are taking, how it is improving, how compliant you are to the regulations or the norms set are. Intent is missing. I would say intent is also missing because the drive is there, not there. Right now, BRSR, which came in 2021, now top 1000 industries publishes those reports. They talk about, I mean, this is the first time an integrated or common reporting template has come into the picture, which is general for all. It is not enough comprehensive so that every industry can report it accurately. You will not get insight out of it, but anyway, they are reporting something into it. So there is a section on that, how much you emit in the air. So it is given that you have to report PM, SO2, NOx, and many other parameters together. You will be surprised to know I just went through a sector, entire sector. This is the biggest sector, biggest industrial sector in India. So in that, the simple question is how much PM you are emitting per year. First of all, the question is not clear. In an industry, there are multiple stats, there are ambient air quality, which number you are talking about. And you will be surprised to know everybody has answered. And everybody has answered differently. So somebody has given ambient air quality concentration, somebody has done in ton per year, somebody has left it, it's not clear, somebody says kg. Clearly, and of course, this is the first template developed, so we do not have clarity, everybody has to learn, that's true. But the reporting which has come from all those industry, which is 20,000 crore, 30,000 crore of industry, and if they are reporting like this, and there is no declaration, no clarity on that, you can understand what intent of reporting of that. And why we are asking this. So first thing, we have multiple policies, regulation, we are very good at that. We make all those regulations and policies. But implementation, like other speakers says, implementation and intent to implement is pretty low. For the construction sector, if I talk, the biggest builders, DLF and all in future, they follow it because they know there is implications on them. But thousands of that, the smaller one, where there is no control. You might know in a society, somebody is building, in a colony, somebody is building, there is no control over this. I just had got a chance a couple of months back to review the Ministry of Steel's, Ministry of Environment's different schemes, how it is performing on the ground. NCAP is one of that which is very related to air quality. I just went to all those, I would say municipal level, pollution control level across India. I simply asked them, do you know your action plan, what you have prepared for the city, how much it has been achieved? You will be surprised to know the intent, the immersion of what they have prepared was 10% of what was expected. So they didn't know that these are the activities I have to do. Some people who have got that, how much money for the NCAP is known by the account section. Who has, what is the activity to be done has to be done by who has reported it, and who is monitoring on the ground, that guy is in the field. So this is in one organization. If I talk about the entire organization or entire program, how successful it will be. So nobody knows what is required to be done. So the smaller industries, we do not have that message or intent going to the bottom. So they are not worried about it. It is not being followed, except the thing about the big one is doing. Government is doing. There's an umbrella program, but how well it is distributed across and strategically fit with the timeline, with the goal we want to achieve, that point is missing, which is, I said, the implementation in broader term is completely missing. We have Green Steel program, which says about how to improve the emission from the steel. We have fly ash emission, where you use that fly ash generated to this construction sector. But all those things are bits and pieces, scattered, not implemented, not streamlined, so the ultimate result is not there.
True, I think some of the things which you have just mentioned, Mr. Kanchan, was true. It means that there is a lack of intent, which you just said. Yeah, there is a lack of intent among the proponent, who is preparing the ESG, and there is a lot of disintegration. You just said that nobody knows what to do. So in that, continuing with this, I'm coming to Dr. Athri, because he is one of the technical member of the CAQM responsible for effective implementation and compliances also. So Dr. Athri, you heard our panelists, a lot of problems you heard. So what do you think? What are the key regulatory and technical measures the CAQM is prioritizing to address regional air pollution in the national capital region in Delhi?
Yeah, I think it is very pertinent when winter comes. Air pollution or deteriorating air quality becomes a buzzword. On daily basis, 1 to 2 pages they are on the air quality, and everybody is concerned because it has health implications. Even leave India, if you go to the at global level, World Economic Forum brings a report every year on 15th January, and they identify the 10 most risks which world is going to face in current year as well as in next 10 years. Air pollution is in both these scenarios, whether it is 1 year or it is 10 years. Like it keep on changing. Before 2020, there was no COVID, but COVID came and it came into the front. And like if we take 2 years, extreme weather events are the most threat. But if we take 1 year, misinformation and disinformation are the things. But air pollution is every year. Out of the 10 risks, 5 are related to environment. And once we talk the air quality, it is very complex. It has no political boundary. Impact of one area into another area, it is there. And to address the issue particularly in the Indo-Gangetic regions, Delhi NCR regions, we take area as a Indo-Gangetic air cells. Delhi alone cannot be taken as a unit to solve the air quality problems. This commission is very new, just established as a statutory body in April 2021 with the mandate, you take any actions, you issue any directions, but please improve the air quality on a sustainable basis. And I will say what Dr. Khare has also mentioned, everybody is expert of the environment, air pollution, you can hear from anybody. Today, there are 2 to 3 big columns are there that today will be the worst day of this season. Air quality will be in the severe zone. It will be totally covered with the smoke and like that. But you can see what the status. At 3 p.m. it is 295. Leave hazardous or severe. It is not in very poor category. It has slided down into the poor category. And we take average of 24 hours at 4 p.m. What's the air quality of the Delhi? And Commission has identified many areas, be it vehicular pollutions, dust from the construction and demolition sites, dust from the roads, industries, DG sets, stubble burning is major problem, pollution from thermal power plants, wherever it is coming, even municipal solid waste burning and like that. From the crematoria, from the hotels, from the refuse burning, from the households. We have to treat all these sectors to come out with the policies, and in this direction, Commission has issued 94 directions so far after its inception, and then 17 advisories to governments which are enforceable and needs to be adhered to. If you want to understand really problem in Delhi, remember 2 words, Dhool and Dhua. You can remember these 2 words. Dhool means it is PM10, dust coming from particularly during summer seasons, and Dhua means the particulate matter, particulate 2.5 coming from the vehicles, coming from the stubble burnings and all these activities, even industries, disease experts. And these two sectors, they contribute to 60 to 70% of the problems. So vehicle is the number one source, and then I mentioned that dust from both construction and demolition activities and road dust. Now people are talking about the green buildings, talking about the clean construction technology. CAQM has also constituted an expert committee with experts from all over the country to come out with the techno-managerial solutions. Which type of the building, whether monolithic structure or what technology, this is the clean technology, say cold mix or hot mix or steel framing, what was also mentioned. But it should be clean, how we can monitor it. We also issued guidelines that when construction is there, how much anti-smoke guns will be there, how construction will be done, how material will be covered, what should be the status of the air quality with the installation of air quality sensors, and then even cameras for 360 PTZ camera, so that even remote monitoring can be done. Project above 500 square meter has to be registered on the website of the state pollution control boards. So unless that will be the violation, any violation from this, we also issue direction for its closure and EC is also imposed. But this is enforcement sector, these are the enforcement issues, but we need to collectively address the issues, particularly during season. This stubble burning is the major source. And last 3-4 years, Commission has taken many actions. Now, even in Punjab, this stubble burning incidents or active fire counts, they have come down from 70,000 to 10,000, 11,000 last year, and this year around 1,000 are there from 15 September. Even Haryana, less than 100 fire counts are there. So many actions are there on the field, trial action force, more than 9,000 volunteers and nodal officers in Punjab in the field, including Deputy Commissioners, SSP and all concerned, even similar in Haryana. We have to utilize this stubble burning both as in situ arrangement as well as ex situ arrangements. But because most of you are more related with the constructions and dust from even road, how roads will be constructed, these we are also taking care of and issuing direction. And in the coming years, you will see new and new better practices will emerge so that we can have clean practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atri. I think you have explained and covered almost all the technical and regulatory measures which CAQM is taking, trying hard. Before I go to the next question, I think I would like to, from the audience, because we have discussed the cross-sector collaboration policies, we have discussed the monitoring frameworks, action plans, we have also got our panelist expert views on ESG applications, and also the direct and indirect health impacts. And lastly, Dr. Atri has explained that what are the technical and regulatory measures the CAQM is taking to combat the air pollution. So I've got, before we go to the next question, 2 questions from the audience. Yes, please.
Sir, Karna here, I'm a startup founder. So I have questions for Mr. Atri. In terms of the target that we have for National Clean Air Program, why don't we have PM 2.5 also as target? And another thing is, we are not measuring VOCs. We are not measuring it in industries also. The pollution control boards, the reports that they are taking from the industries are covering like SOx, NOx, monoxide and PM10 and all that kind of thing. But we have industries using hazardous chemicals, they have hazardous waste, they are processing, all kinds of compounds are being formed. So why aren't the reports industry specific? For example, my society has been constructed next to a red category polluting industry, and how did that happen in the scheme of things, it's really perplexing. They have asbestos, they make brake shoes, they have all kinds of organic compounds, they have baking operations. So finally we got them to stop the baking operations there. But the reports that they were required to submit only asked them to declare SOx, NOx and all that. That's it. Nothing on formaldehyde and asbestos and all that. So there would be other, if you look at the chemical reactions, there would be so many more emissions there. But they are not required to track that. We asked CP to measure that, State Pollution Control Board to measure that, they did not. Finally, we got it done ourselves through Shriram Institute for Industrial Research. We found there was formaldehyde, we tested for formaldehyde and asbestos, it was found in our ambient air. So finally, that's how we could pressurize them to stop the baking operations. But the point is, this is such a huge lapse. We are like, even today, it is like, we are just measuring basic things in industries, so that's like really concerning. For traffic also, we are not measuring VOCs, we are not measuring it anywhere, and they cause cancer, right? So that is one thing. And in terms of, in our country, garbage burning is waste management strategy. So given that, how are we ever going to be able to control air pollution? And during the GRAP orders and all that, I don't know if police is required to stop people from burning garbage or not, but this is a very serious challenge.
Okay, so your concerns with the VOCs, which you said that Hawaii we are not doing that, and garbage burning.
I think you have mentioned plethora of the activities starting with the VOCs and even asbestos, hazardous chemicals, hazardous substances to the GRAP and even monitoring and enforcement.
2.5 PM, 2.5 targets.
Starting with the NCAP, like target for NCAP, when this plan was envisaged, it was only for 10 and 40% reduction from the base of 2018. But I think in coming years, you will find that this species PM 2.5 should also be part of the NCAP.
So why is it not done? So it's not such a difficult thing, right? So
when like it was started in 2019,
yeah.
then expert committee and other people, they put focus on the PM10. Those things are evolving now. VOCs, people are not measuring those 12 national national ambient air quality standards. People are measuring those. But in future, like VOCs are really serious. The other compounds, they may also be in the list of them.
So, but industries are not required to report that, right?
At present, they are not part of this 20 species. But like in the ambient air quality, you will find benzopyrene, pyrene is there. Then some of these other substances in future may come.
So if we test, thousands will be there. So we are not testing. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's okay. But, as Dr. Atri has said, that future we can go. We will be doing all these things. Because everything gets. Yeah, it will, that yes, you are. I know that you are concerned about that, but we have to see the facilities. We have to see the instrumentation. Right, okay. So one question more and then I'll go for the next discussion. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon. My question goes again to Dr. Atri. Can you enlighten us, when would you like to get the respite from this air pollution? There must be some time frame where the agencies are looking at that the people, the residents of Delhi will get relief from this menace. Thank you.
Okay, I think very pertinent question. Two things. Now, winter has just started. Now, the more, I should say that things will be worse. We should be ready for that because air quality will be deteriorating more in the coming days. But remember one thing. Air quality is function of the two things, X and Y. If we take X as the emissions and Y as the meteorology, we don't have any control over meteorology. But we can control emissions, and what you mentioned, that is very important. If we can reduce the emissions of the pollutants from the source, be it vehicles, be it the construction, be it the stubble burning. That is the only option left with us. We must reduce the source, we should use technology, we should use those practices, even this garbage burning that has been already banned, and there are violations if that is being burned. And even MCDs and other local bodies, they have to have installation of camera there and then monitors and like that, because garbage burning is also a source of disease. So if we can control emissions, and we are targeting that, so we can have better days, and I am very sure that with the cooperation of all of you, Delhi will see better air quality days in the coming years. Thank you. Government is acting on daily basis, man, you can't say. Otherwise, population is increasing. Only 2.5% area is Delhi. It's more than 50% of the vehicles in the NCR only for Delhi. We have more and more problems. Population is increasing daily basis. Vehicle increasing. Still, there is improvement in air quality. If you take for last 8-9 years from 2017 to 2024 or 25, you will find that definitely there is improvement both in air quality, even PM 2.5 and PM 10.
Thank you, Dr. Atri. Now I think we should go for the next question to my panelist, Dr. Sumit Sharma. We now have a little bit of deviation. Sumit, that can you just throw light on the how can we move towards integrated indoor and outdoor air quality management in India? Because indoor air quality is quite area which is niche.
Thank you. And I'll start from where Madam has ended, and I'll try to address what you have raised. Very pertinent question, I must say. See, we have so many pollutants for which we have national ambient air quality standards. That means we must achieve those standards at some point of time. Or to achieve those, and other than 10 and 2.5, there are so many others there, heavy metals, VOCs and ozone and everything. We are at the moment focused on PM 2.5 and 10, mainly to, because of the major health implications associated with it. But for others, we do not have air quality action plan or air quality management plans for those pollutants. Once that is there, that will put sectoral controls on industries X, Y, Z, which is contributing to that particular heavy metal or VOCs. I think that is where the gap is. What we need to have air quality management plan for ozone, for VOCs, for X and Y heavy metal, which is listed in the ambient air quality standards for India. I think that is what is required, just to answer your question. Coming to sir, indoor air quality and outdoor air pollution, they are heavily correlated, we know that. Both are emitters and both are receptors of pollutants. Whatever we emit within our house goes outside and contributes to outdoor air pollution, and outdoor air pollution also leaks into our rooms and contributes to deterioration of indoor air quality. And we know 80-90% of our times we are inside rooms and we are exposed to whatever is getting accumulated here in a particular room. Now, that means we need to work on both sides, within the house and outside the house. Outside the house, I think we have discussed enough, and CAQ, and I must say that sometimes we feel that government is not doing anything, but they are doing stuff, and they have taken a lot of measures. Otherwise, pollution level could have been really devastating, and they have tried to control to some extent, I would say. Indoors, there are few things we must do, and Professor Khare was the flag bearer of having indoor air quality guidelines or standards in the country, and that is something which we are lacking. And once they are there, that can throw more light on what we can achieve within indoors environment in the country and what should be achieved. There are so many things which can be done. I still remember when I was working in Terry and we used to monitor indoor air quality in our different floors. On one of the floors, we found that the air quality was heavily, deteriorated, and we were like, why this is happening? And our building team assisted us at that point of time, and we realized that the HVAC system in that particular floor was, not working well. and there was hardly any fresh air intake in that. So as simple as this can actually resolve your indoor air quality issue to some extent in some cases. But to integrate it with the outdoor air quality concerns which are more prominent, I would say starts with awareness and knowing that what is PM10, what is PM2.5, what is VOCs, what are other chemicals which can harm us is utmost important, and then only we can take some actions to control it. The second thing is monitoring, and regulatory monitors are there to control larger sources, those kind of bigger policy compliance decisions. But for our own protection, I think monitoring through our own equipment is good enough to raise awareness and probably take some small actions around us. And finally, based on monitoring, if we can start taking some actions, as simple as not standing next to a printer which can emit a lot of VOCs is something which can reduce your exposures to printing ink. Shifting to paints which are low VOCs, which are water-based paints, or asking or actually demanding for these kind of products which emit lesser and lesser emissions is something which we can do to integrate indoor and outdoor air quality concerns.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you so much. So it means that awareness is very important part as far as indoor air quality is concerned, so that people can become proactive rather than reactive. So I would go to Parker. That reactive and proactive, these two things, these two words are very important. So air pollution is often addressed reactively. Pollution बढ़ गया तो भाई आप action लो, isn't it? Now, what policy or regulatory innovations could drive a shift towards a preventive air quality management, particularly in city planning and infrastructure? Can you throw light on that?
Sure, sir. If I can take an additional minute to also reflect on a few of the other comments that have been made. I think just as an offending party that has also contributed to a lot of the health research that is built up on the air quality space, I think a few things that I wanted to share. I think first is that we can say with a high level certainly that we have robust evidence on the association between air pollution exposure and impacts on prenatal outcomes, so premature birth or low birth weight in babies, neurodevelopment or cognitive outcomes, meaning slow development of cognitive abilities in young children, chronic cardiovascular disease including hypertension, chronic diabetes, increased lipid levels, hypertension, and premature mortality for those who have pre-existing health conditions. So if you're an asthmatic, if you have chronic bronchitis, if you have chronic heart disease, you are more likely to be affected by air pollution. And these are all studies that have been published in India by Indian researchers, including colleagues from IIT Delhi, IIT Kanpur, AIIMS, ourselves, various other institutions who we've all collaborated with to publish this, right? What do we learn from all of this? I think what we have learned is that there is a substantial amount of evidence now which shows that air pollution levels need to come down quite a lot from where they are right now. And I appreciate that it is challenging to do this when meteorology is not in our control. But the reality is we need to come down to maybe 10% of where we are right now. And that's a long way to go, right? So what can we do to achieve that in a proactive manner? So the question of proactive versus reactive is not just something that you implement during peak air pollution season, but also what you do throughout the rest of the year. I appreciate Dr. Atri saying, for instance, that during this particular time of the year, not only is the meteorology not in your control, regional sources are also not in your control. And noted that regional sources, if we assume that it will take 5-10 years to fix this problem, which is a systemic issue, not just, and is a symptom of a wider problem that is reflective of why we are growing crops that are highly water consuming in a water scarce area, why we are providing sort of electricity subsidies and food subsidies to procure directly from these regions, and then introduce laws that restrict harvesting season that then contributes to stubble burning. This is a long-term issue that will require more systemic thinking to solve this problem. What can we do in the interim? We can only fix what's in our control. And if we're thinking about that proactively, that's long-term thinking about, okay, if this is sort of what is a healthy level of air pollution, this is what we're experiencing throughout the year, and this is added by sort of seasonal sources. This is the mid-block is what we have in our control, and that requires long-term systemic thinking, even for what we can do within cities. So that means thinking about industrial sources, That means thinking about waste management much more proactively. It means thinking about construction and related emissions that are happening at not just large construction sites of 500 square meters or more, but small construction sites that are happening nearby where each and every one of us live. It also means thinking about what effective transport for a mega city like Delhi means. We made substantial investments in metro. Can we make it much more accessible for people who don't have use to it? So that's one aspect of the proactive part, right? Which is what do we have in our control and what can we do to fix that part? And automatically, if you reduce the mid block of that, what is within our control by 50%, you'll see seasonal peaks go down quite considerably. So if our annual contribution from all of these sources is, let's say, 100 micrograms, and you bring that down to 50, your seasonal peaks automatically stop going to the levels that we're talking about. For the peak season, I think the CAQM is already doing a substantial amount to try and reduce the impact of those peaks. But there are some things that are largely going to remain challenging to manage. I think efforts were made in prior seasons to utilize decision support tools and forecasting systems to try and preemptively introduce new stages of the crack and put restrictions before air quality ventured into sort of higher levels of very, very poor, severe, etc. And perhaps it's useful to hear from Sir as well on what the sort of status of such tools is, because I think as much as we sort of introduce restrictions after we've already reached air quality levels, not reaching those levels in the first place by putting those restrictions beforehand is probably what we need to do.
Okay, thank you, Bhargav. I think CAQM is doing a lot of things proactively as well, because that's why GRAP is brought. And I think GRAP is working based on the as a DSS, it is support system, so that we can prevent the emissions to go up and across the limit, isn't it? So I think we are trying that some regulatory measures are also being done to have a preventive air quality management. So with this, I would come to Dr. Pratibha Ganeshan again. Dr. Ganeshan, can you tell about how can local ecological interventions, I come to know ecology, so how ecological interventions such as afforestation or green corridors, biofiltration, and these are some of the technological solutions, how these can improve the air quality?
Technology and ecological solutions have to be complementary to each other. And the reason is that technological solutions, say for example vehicular, if we have scrubbers in the vehicle or in the industrial emission to prevent pollution from the emission like that. And there are multiple smoke towers are there, multiple technologies are there, but most of these technologies are either capital intensive or it require intensive maintenance and all of those things. And scalability is also a problem. So in that kind of a situation, what is it that for a public well-being that we can use? It's mostly the ecological solution. So afforestation, particularly the gaseous products which are there in the atmosphere. So afforestation, the plants, the trees actually take up the gaseous pollutants, and then it is converted into oxygen, and similarly the fine particulate matter. It actually, the fine particulate matter is getting deposited on the leaves. So, the temperature is being controlled. So afforestation in some sense provides a lot of ecological services for prevention of pollution. Similarly, green corridors, if you say the dust pollution from the roads is very, very high. And green corridors can actually be a buffer zone between the residential areas as well as from the road and the dust. So, like that. And third one was biofiltration. So, biofiltration mostly, I've studied garbage dumps quite a bit. So when it comes to odor, when it comes to VOCs, all of those things, biofiltration can be one major source which can be used in industrial spaces as well as the near the garbage dump sites, etc. But one thing that I want to say is that when both ecological solution as well as the technological solution go hand in hand, there's a lot management of the pollution. pollution. We are not still looking at the reduction of the sources from pollution sources. So all of these three things has to come together to have a better air quality. Is what I would suggest.
Yeah, correct. And I think these ecological interventions are also going to reduce the exposure of the people who are using that corridor. If we have a buffer zone, we're having a green corridor or a proper plantation and a proper species to be planted within the city, so that afforestation can also protect the health of the people, especially those who are using that particular road corridor. So it's an important ecological intervention. They are very important. I think city planners should also think of that and how the city should be used with these ecological barriers. Okay, Mr. Kanchan, so I come to you now. The question again on the ESG. Do you think that introducing air quality metrics as a mandate of ESG disclosure would create impact?
So ESG disclosure, when we're talking about in terms of air quality, certainly we are saying that these are the parameters, or these are the standards, and this is what we are reporting. I see we can include right now the reporting structure or the framework is in the pictures abroad. For that, we have to prepare sector-wise supplement. So we have to bring that sector-wise supplement for the construction sectors, for manufacturing sector, because the general guideline cannot be applied, framework cannot be applied across sector. That will be helpful in that they start monitoring, they start reporting. But construction sector and ESG reporting is not done by everyone. It's just for the big player. So part of the solution which we are looking for will be very minimal, because these are the only few big ones who are doing that. If that will make sense in the larger goal, I see it as minuscule. Larger, if we have to ask them to report, we need to have that what is the goal, or they are contributing to the overall goal what government is planning to do. So to take these stakeholders on board and ask them to contribute to it, because the expense to be done or expertise what they have, they do have enough. For them this is a penny. But you have to take them on board, that you contributed, how much you are helping to improve their air quality in the area of concern. If they report that we know that it is improving, who is contributing, and then we encourage them, okay, you have done better, they should be given some name, fame that this is what they have contributed with. So this way we can encourage. But again, I would say that these are very few, smaller portions. To take them to the ground, to those thousands of manufacturers, builders, how to involve them is a bigger question. So one is that those who are doing it. Second part is the municipality who is involved. You will see that municipality itself who is laying the pipeline, excavating road, they have no monitoring. There is no sprinkling in that at all. They are not concerned about what norms has been played for them. I have seen in many smaller places it is happening. Not about highway and all, they do that. But the smaller one at municipal level, you will see they have excavated, society knows, your vehicle is going, dust is emitting, so their contribution is gone. Their responsibility and accountability is not there. I think we have to involve them, bring some accountability and responsibility at that level, so that everybody contributes for a major change. For having just a framework involving ESG, I think for now, at least for the air quality purpose, is very small part of it.
Yeah, I think you are very right. The involvement of municipality for sources like construction is very important, and then the ESG can be impactful. That's what is whatever you have just told. So the last question, which I have come to Dr. Atri again, is that beyond compliance monitoring, what data integration and predictive modeling tools are needed to move CAQM role from interstate enforcement to proactive air quality forecasting?
Yeah, I think very much needed, and which was just mentioned, that the grab which we are invoking based on the predictions. Like 3 days forecasting, we are going to have the severe or any category. We take what is air quality today and what will be in the coming say next 3-4 days. We take proactive decisions. And most of you may be aware that this graph, the particularly invoking of graph starts with the poor air quality index, starting with the 200, 1 to 300, then very poor 300, 1 to 400, severe 401 to 450, and severe plus more than 450. So we are doing this on the proactively basis. And one thing which I want to share with you, that source contribution, what are the sources of the air pollution, accurately identification is very important. There have been some efforts in the past like 2010, 2015 and 2018 by Terry and Arai and others. Those are the latest available emission inventory in the Delhi NCR, which is very complex. And after establishment of CAQM and others, we have taken many actions, like all industries in the NCR regions, coal is banned except isolated thermal power plants. So most of the industry, like 240 industrial areas are there. Out of them, 224 are on the PNG, 5 are PNG cascade, and all the 240 industrial area will be having clean fuel. And the problem of VOC and the other, that will go away. And another thing, like even we have come out with a framework. What was happening in 2018, what is happening in 2025-26. We have framed a national steering committee. They came out with the framework. Now we have mandated CPCB to prepare new emission inventory and source apportionment study of that in next say 1.25 years. We will have latest emission inventory for Delhi RC, so that we can get actual sources of emissions, better forecast, and we can take actions on the new species, what cause pollution in Delhi, so that we will be very near to the reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Atri. I think it's very important to have interstate enforcement, which CAQM is trying to do. And regional also is an important contributor to the Delhi pollution, where the enforcement, regional enforcement becomes very important. That what are the sources and how to tackle those sources in order to reduce the emissions or concentration within the Delhi city. That's what.
Yeah, just one point. If we take source apportionment, 1/3 pollution comes from Delhi, 1/3 comes from NCR regions, and even 1/3 of the pollution comes from other regions, including transboundary pollution. So we have to take steps in the over a very large area. Thank you.
So it means the airshed approach, you are supporting that there should be an airshed approach within such cities like Delhi NCR. Then it will be effective and preventive measures can be taken. So I would can we allow 2 questions? Yes, or its time we are exceeding the time? Very short of time? So okay, as I was directed by the coordinator that time is not there, so I'm sorry for that. So thank you so much, panelists. We have done a lot of discussions on that. And thank you, Dr. Ganeshan, thank you, Dr. Sumit, thanks Dr. Atri, thanks Dr. Kanchan, and thanks Bhargav. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much everyone for such an intense and insightful session. So before we conclude, I request our chair, Professor Mukesh, to please present a small gesture of gratitude to all the panelists on the dais. Mr. Krishna here. Can we also have a round of applause for all the dignitaries on the dais? Thank you so much, everyone. May I now request Ms. Shabnam Masih. May I request Ms. Shabnam Masih, Deputy CEO of Griha Council, to kindly felicitate our chair. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the event today. Once again, on behalf of Griha Council, I would like to thank all of you for joining us for the session, and we look forward to seeing you all in the next plenary sessions. Thank you.